So, the other day, my farm boy, I went to the farm and I found he had slaughtered one of the cocks. In Kiswahili, tunaita nini?
Jogo.
And I asked him, so you felt like eating chicken today? He said, no. I just felt this one needed to be killed. I asked why?
Why?
Because this Jogo had been running after other Jogos and climbing on them. A woman would come to me and say, tell my husband I cannot have sex for medical reasons. And they would do that because they didn't want to have sex. So I got interested. Why would people want me to lie to their husbands?
Hi everyone, welcome back to Tangawizi Podcast. This is your super host, Caroline Momanyi. We are back here again having very interesting conversations that would keep you moving, keep you engaged. And most importantly, after this one, I'm sure you'll really talk about us or you will talk to us. Because the conversations today are going to be around identity and sexual health. It's a favorite, a personal favorite. I hope it will be yours as well. And to have that conversation today, I will allow my guest to introduce themselves or himself.
Yes. Professor Joachim Osur. I work here at Prof International University as the Vice Chancellor.
Wow.
And I'm a sexual medicine practitioner.
Okay. What does that even mean?
So there are problems that people face sexually.
Okay.
Some are diseases. We call them sexual dysfunctions. Some are relationships related. Some are social related, but they affect sex and sexual performance. So the professionals who treat people or manage those problems are called sexual health professionals. They can be doctors, in which case they have done sexual medicine like I have. Mm-hmm. They can be psychologists, in which case they are called sexologists. Or they can just be counselors who just specialize on sexuality, in which case they are sex therapists. I am a sexual medicine practitioner, but also a sexologist. So I deal with both sexual problems related to medicine and also related to psychology.
I think in the spirit of getting to know more about you, which I think would also be beneficial to those that are listening to us, How did you get there? How did you get at, okay, there's so much in the space of health, but I want to add value in sexual health?
Yeah, so I used to treat people, and I used to work mostly in the obstetrics and gynecology sections of the hospital. So I would see women who are pregnant, breastfeeding, looking for children, infertile, and so on. But something always used to amaze me. At least once or twice a week, a woman would come to me and say, tell my husband I cannot have sex for medical reasons. And they would do that because they didn't want to have sex. So I got interested. Why would people want me to lie to their husbands every time?
Lie or even go in between.
Yes.
You're part of that relationship.
Try to separate what God has put together, and I didn't want.
Please don't.
Yes. So I got a bit interested, and it made me go and study sexual medicine. And I realized there's so much. Actually, at any given time, a third of the population has a sexual problem. So 10 people, 3 will always have a sex problem at any given time.
Wow.
So it's a big population. If you think of Kenya as how many people?
50 million now, I think.
What is a third of that?
God, don't make me count.
That's about 16, 17 million Kenyans as we talk now have a sex problem.
Wow. Then that brings us to actually what we are supposed to focus on. How are the 17 million Kenyans affected? where the identity is concerned. Like, does your sexual health have anything to do with how you present? Or
So sexual identity is very important when you think of sexuality. Identity means many things when you think of sexuality. It is about what you think people perceive you as, and it's also about how you perceive yourself. And sometimes it's just your appearance. If you're thinking you're ugly, that is sexually important, because then you cannot be sexual when you don't appreciate your beauty.
okay,
Yeah, and a lot of people, we call it body dysmorphia. You know, people feel sometimes that one part of their body or the other is not okay. And I know in the commercial world, there are a lot of people making money out of that. So you have people making things to pad your bottoms,
breast enlargement.
Botox, and so on, just to make you feel that you're now okay, that you're not ugly, because we all want to be beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah. So physical identity is sexual. Even the way we dress, you know, this kind of dress you put on, how long it is, how short the sleeves are, your hairstyle.
Why do I feel like you're talking about me?
You know, you're trying to identify yourself in the sense of beauty and sexuality.
Okay.
Not to mean that people dress in a certain way so that they attract another person sexually. But people, I would say, enjoy their sexuality. I'm feminine or I'm masculine and I want to show it, I'm happy about it. That identity is sexual. So that is one aspect of identity when you think of sex.
Wow.
But there is also the other one, which is very controversial. Am I male or am I female?
Okay. Isn't that biology?
That is, so biologically, you can be male or female if we look at your genitals and so on.
Okay.
But your mind may be very different. So there are males who feel they are females. There are females who feel they are male. That is transgender identity. Yeah. But again, anatomically, you can have structures which are not male or female. I think in Kenya, in the last census, they counted a number of people who are neither male or female.
I think those that they call or they refer to as the intersex, right?
Intersex, yes. So that's another identity. But even in terms of sexual attraction, people have their identities. And please note that for me as a professional, I'm neutral on these things. Because I know it is very controversial when you say some people get attracted to same sex. They are homosexuals. Some people get attracted to the opposite sex. They are heterosexuals. Some people get attracted to both sexes. They are bisexual. And normally what we know scientifically is that it's a sliding scale.
What does that mean?
It means that if I assessed someone, because there are assessments we do, you can be purely homosexual or purely heterosexual, or you can be between those two spectrums.
Wow.
And again, this can change. It's not constant. There are people who keep swinging in between.
I think you are just moving quickly to the hot topics. I wasn't even ready because now I'm wondering, because when we talk about the sexual orientation aspect that you're bringing on, I find that most people have not reconciled on what that even is. Almost to mean that it's a conversation that we must not talk about, but then it very much so affects how we identify, how we perceive ourselves, and how we are perceived by others. So I think it would be very much important to unpack that.
So, you know, the other day, my farm boy, I went to the farm and I found he had slaughtered one of the cocks In Kiswahili tunaita nini? Jogo.
Jogo.
And I asked him, so you felt like eating chicken today? He said, no. I just felt this one needed to be killed. I asked why?
Why?
Because this Jogo had been running after other Jogos and climbing on them.
Okay.
So I asked him, so why did you do that? And he said, it is disturbing.
Okay.
Just to tell you that this thing of orientation, I don't know whether it's just human beings or other animals as well. And whether it is genetic or social or both. Because when you do animal studies, you find some of those behaviors. But also among humans, you find humans who will be attracted to the same sex. And they want to have sex with the same sex, and they are doing it. And they have those feelings. And by the way, feelings cannot be imposed. For example, if I'm heterosexual, I'll find it very repugnant trying to, think even sexually with another man. And the same case applies to a man who is homosexual. Maybe they find it very repugnant thinking about sex with a woman. So what we see in the professional field, which is very different from street talk, is that these things are existing. Yeah, and I get people come to me. I remember the other day, a child was brought to me by the parents, and they said, treat him. And I asked, what is the problem? He's getting attracted to men, to fellow boys instead of girls. He's 15. And I said, I don't know how to treat that. Yeah.
I don't think even as a parent, parents are ready for this conversation.
Yeah, actually, it is known that parents suffer more when you have these cases of same-sex relationships, because they can't reconcile it in their heads, how their own child would be doing that.
Okay. So as we are looking at how sexual health impacts identity, could you take us through the journey of, the different stages of life? Is it something that is very out there or very prevalent? Is it something that we face, the everyday of you are a toddler, you are an adolescent, is that part of the whole thing?
Yeah, it is important to know from the time of conception, identity, sexual identity, is something biologically that we study. The first few weeks of life, we are all the same, both male and female. Actually, if you do nothing else, we can all grow to be female. The first few weeks, we are all the same and looking like female. But at some point, the Y chromosome in a man, we have Y
and
X, while women have X and X.
Correct.
The Y chromosomes trigger something, and then you start producing testosterone. And that is now what changes us from our original identity, which was we were all female. That's about 6 weeks after you are conceived. Then now you start developing male features, and the females continue to be female. And, we know that identity and family and sexual identity, the genitals are very important, even in our culture. And people go to long lengths of trying to get a male child. Female child sometimes, but mostly a male child, because people think that having male genitals makes you a superior human being.
They're protecting the lineage, I hear. Or lineage, I don't know what's the correct
But it's the woman who knows the lineage.
What?
Isn't it?
Wow, I was this many years.
In Uganda recently there was a crisis because a lot of men were taking their children for DNA. And they were discovering that
They're not
those children were not theirs.
Wow.
So lineage.
I'm feeling very empowered. I have always believed that it's the men that carry this lineage.
Socially, yes.
Socially. Aha.
Biologically,
it's the female. Wow. This is empowering to know.
Yeah. But anyway, so even at the time of conception and at the time of birth, during pregnancy, socially people have tried to influence identity, sexual identity. And especially in Africa, they want mostly the male. And it could be because it is taken that the male maybe provides some advantages to the family. Because maybe the female will go marry somewhere else. If you're thinking of inheritance and other things, so yeah. But those things are changing. But yeah, people try to influence in very many ways. People come to ask me, how do I get a male child? Should I sleep with my husband when I'm having periods? What should I do? And there is some scientific something one can do. But you can see they are trying to influence identity of the child. When you are born and you're male, in many families, you are treated differently. Females are also treated differently. And that is just to entrench the issue of sexual identity. And this will continue along social lines for some time. The things you are allowed to do, who should cook, the gender identity is also sexual identity in our settings. And it goes like that until puberty, until marriage. And that is why people started preparing for your sex and gender before you are born. So if at some point you start telling them that now, although you are born male, you are feeling like female, they get agitated.
Now hold on. How do we get there? How did we get there? Because I think in this century that we are in, it's important for people to kind of understand how did we get to a situation where I can decide this is how my parents or my community prepared for my gender. This is how I present biologically. But then this is how I have decided, apparently, I identify as this other gender. How does that come out?
I think incidentally, sexual identity is social rather than individual. It's not a one-person decision.
Okay.
In our setting. So the day you are born, if they think you are a male, they do rituals on you for a male.
But Doc, they can't think.
When you reach time of, they call it what?
Initiation.
Initiation.
Yes.
They do things that they think are supposed to be done on a male.
Okay.
And so your identity is a group-determined identity. And that is why when now you tell this group that it's not what you thought, they get very irritated with you. We have treated you this way. We've initiated you.
But it's the biology that also helps.
It is the group.
The biology is part of the group.
The group tries to, when there are things they see and then they decide where to place you.
Okay.
So they look at your genitals and they place you somewhere. Now, previously what used to happen, if you are born intersex, people would insist, in fact by law, they would insist that by the time you're leaving hospital, we must know if you're a girl or a boy. They would do surgeries on you.
Constructive surgery?
Yes, to give you an identity.
Okay.
As a baby.
So who decides?
They would do some tests on you. Your parents would also be involved. So that by the time you remember, in your birth certificate, they have to write who you are.
Okay, male or female.
Yes. Okay. So that used to happen because they have to place you somewhere and do for you what is normally done to a girl or to a boy. Incidentally, they made mistakes sometimes. So the time you reached puberty, your body would blossom into something else. If they made a mistake, maybe they gave you female genitals and you're a man. Then you develop beards and you have no breasts. Then they realize, oh, we made a mistake. So these days we say it is better to leave intersex to be.
Okay.
If in future they feel like they want to identify with another gender, they can do that. But do not predetermine people who are not male or female and make them what you want.
And what about those among us that are not intersex? Those that would then now move away from what the group that you're mentioning.
Group identity.
The group identity of we've decided Caroline presents should be female. And then I decide otherwise.
So like now you come and tell me
I'm David.
you're David
Uh-huh.
and you want to marry another girl.
Yes.
They will rise against you.
Is
Starting with your parents.
okay.
Because they will say, what's wrong with you? You are not David. In fact, people come to me and say they have taken these children to the church, they have been prayed for, to the mosque, they have been prayed for, to a diviner. They have cut some cocks and put blood on them, but they are not changing. And they ask for medicine. Because they think there is something. In fact, it's not just in Africa. A long time ago, even in the West, if you presented with sexual features that looked like homosexuality, they would classify you as a psychiatric case. So it's always been there. Yeah. But those who are godly may say God works in mysterious ways. We do not know why a male would behave like a female or want to be a female.
So from where you are sitting, is there like a medical explanation? Like a parent comes to you, do you tell them then this is too much XX, too much YY or whatever?
There are cases where you can explain, where maybe the genes are not typically what you'd call male or female, or the hormones. So that can be there. But in many cases, that process of development from the time you're conceived, things happen that make you different, and we cannot explain what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are looking at a young person who is in puberty or thereabout, and they're having all these different emotions. How better can we as a society support that young person?
So the commonest question that a young person has sexually is, am I normal?
Correct.
That disturbs them a lot. Am I normal? If I'm a male, am I normal? If I'm a female, am I normal? If I'm neither of the two, am I normal?
Or what is wrong with me?
What is wrong with me? And they come even just having normal, young boys have wet dreams. It worries them. They feel attracted to someone. It worries them. They want to feel welcome, but they don't know how to do it. And so there is need first to give people space to feel the way they feel. In many families, we are stopped from feeling the way we feel. So that if you are looking at me in a certain way, your mother will beat you up.
Correct.
Why are you looking at
It's not
boys?
encouraged.
Yes. So they are stifling those feelings. What they don't know is that you might stop having feelings for boys if they do that.
But Doc, that was our reality personally when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Like you're told, do not walk with boys.
So you work with girls?
Yes. But you see, then it was not as prevalent as it is now. So it was safer for my parents to allow me in the company of females. Very comfortable, like nothing would go wrong there, according to my parent.
Okay.
But in the century that we are in, I don't know. We should actually have some parents come on here and tell us how they are navigating with that.
But that allowing for space for people to feel who they are is important. And so it means empowering a person to feel the normal feelings and stay safe. if you're feeling sexual, it is normal to feel sexual. But you can also, it can be dangerous if you do some things. So how do you stay safe? Building that capacity is very important.
So acknowledging the feeling, like you're in puberty, you're an adolescent.
You will feel
you
sexual.
will feel sexual.
You will feel attracted to someone. You don't have to rape them. You will feel like you want to be accepted in someone's space. It's okay even to try and do that. But there is a limit. There are boundaries which you must observe.
Okay.
So that ability, building that capacity is what is needed. In many countries, they do it through sexuality education.
Okay.
So you are knowledgeable, you know what is coming. Even small things like periods will come. You are aware of it and you know what to do when they come. You know when you're ovulating and how you feel when you're ovulating. If you're a man, you know that it's normal to have an erection in the morning at a certain age. It's not abnormal. So you shouldn't cry that I have an erection.
I think you're bringing the tough aspect of this, because I'm just wondering how this conversation can even take place in an African home.
Well, we are slowly getting there. The problem, let me tell you the tragedy. Because we stopped doing it formally, it's happening informally.
What do you mean?
Everyone now has a gadget.
Okay.
From a very early age, children 8, 10 years, 12, they have a gadget. They have access to internet. Those things you did not want them to know, they get to know them. And the fastest growing industry now is pornography. So if you do not allow for space, you don't do it formally, it will happen informally. I have received young people in my office who have been in the journey of discovery, and they have had all manner of sex with all manner of people to fulfill their curiosity. And sometimes it's become dangerous. They've gotten diseases. We can't blame them. Naturally, they want to explore and know. If we neglect them and they are able to discover that on their own, they will do it through crisis. And so it's so important that that identity of sexuality, people are given the ability to appreciate it and the capacity to manage it.
But how can you separate sexuality, sexual health, African values, religious values? Like you see, it's a whole cocktail.
Do you know?
How do you do that?
The worrying thing is that Africans knew how to manage this, but we abandoned it. If you go to any African community, they had a very elaborate way of supporting sexuality and making sure you're healthy sexually.
Okay.
They had organized lessons. In many communities, the uncle mentored your uncle mentored you.
For me, it's the aunties, the men.
The men. For the girls, it was the
aunties, yeah.
And they told you everything. In fact, in some communities, they demonstrated how to have sex. And so you are empowered. You knew what to do. Now, these days, in my office, people fly from Mombasa. They went on honeymoon, 2 days down the line, they do not know what to do. They fly back to Nairobi to see me. Because maybe they come from a very traditional religious family. They've never seen each other naked. They are ashamed to be naked. They are crying. They don't know what to do.
Wow.
It's a tragedy. And we are, there is something we call unconsummated marriages.
Yeah.
Where sex has never happened. I'm seeing them.
Okay, why did they get married in the first place? On a light note.
Yeah, you'd expect that. Partly it was because they were sexually attracted to each other. But now, if you have been in this very protected zone where you are not supposed to see sex as something important and useful, And then you grow and a certain age reaches, and the same people who are telling you not to now tell you you must marry now and have sex. Reconciling 20 years of negative sexuality in 1 week so that you start having sex can be very difficult.
Okay.
Yeah. In your whole life, maybe you're marrying at 25, you've been told how sex is bad and dangerous. And then now, you met a man, you are wedding today and you're being told you must now go and have sex.
We need grandchildren.
Yes.
You have the grand assignment in front of you.
It's terrible, terrible crisis.
I think what I'm liking is that you're saying if we also go back to our African culture,
It has solutions.
it has solutions.
It has solutions.
That the meetings, the convenings of aunties with their nieces and uncles with their nephews was very, very instrumental in creating a positive outlook on how we would identify ourselves sexually.
You know, I have tried to ask the old people whether in their time people ever killed their lovers. Like a man killing the wife or a wife killing the husband. Intentionally. Nobody has told me it used to happen because there were ways of solving problems. Problems were still there, but there were ways of solving them. Because there was sexuality, relationship, education, and support. There was social family support around it. You knew who to talk to if your partner was becoming problematic. But now we are having femicide.
On the rise, unfortunately. And can we then say that we are just focusing on one side of sexual health and not the other? Because a lot of focus is put now on the I don't know how to put it or frame it in a better way, like sexual diseases. Right? So that there would be a lot of conversations on if you have multiple partners, you're going to subject yourself to sexually transmitted infections. But then we are not having so much conversations around how do you safely interact, in partnerships, in that light.
Yeah, so we are very heavy on what we call negative sexuality.
Okay.
How sex is bad, how evil it is, how it brings diseases. There is a positive side of sexuality, which is what it was meant to be. That it can be fulfilling, it can make your relationship really important and fulfilling, it can be a source of joy and pleasure, it can give you children when you want children. So sex is important. It's actually at the core of humanity. And it can be safeguarded and made beautiful. That side of things is what is missing.
I'm just wondering, the other day I saw how sexual, or not even sexual, how menstruation became like a thing, like people thinking about it from the light of looking at women from a whole different light. Like there's even period, I think there's a term they were using there, like period shame. Like, how did we get there?
Yeah. It's trying to portray the beautiful things. Periods are beautiful.
Exactly.
It shows you are a woman. It shows you're ovulating.
Yes.
It shows you can have babies, But I think because of gender things, negative sexuality, it's being portrayed as something very negative. So that if you have your periods, you're dirty. And sometimes it even goes to be religious. You're dirty. You can't even, be moving to church or to mosque when you're having periods. It shows there is something wrong with the woman. Yeah. It is the opposite way of how people should be thinking. Can you imagine women who have no periods?
Catastrophic.
Yeah.
It will threaten our own existence.
So periods are good. When this lady was getting shamed in Parliament should have been happy that Kenya has women who can menstruate. They shouldn't have been shaming her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, I'm just looking at a young person who is listening to us today, and they are wondering, okay, I have these feelings, I have this, I'm gravitating towards this, relationship that, as you've said, maybe those relationships are commonly shunned. Is it possible for me as a young person to still embrace who I am in all this confusion? Is it possible? I am being shunned. It's an important part of my, life. I really want to, achieve all my dreams. How can I separate this? How can I put it aside and, focus on a positive outlook of my sexual health, pursue my dreams, and achieve them?
Yeah, building your own capacity. I think if you are lucky to be born in a family where people can discuss these things openly, you can go very far. But if you find yourself in a family where negative sexuality is what people value, hopefully you reach a point where you can build your own capacity, you can develop your own curiosity, you can look for information from professionals.
I like that part.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of information on TikTok right now.
Yes, and also because there is a gap in sex education,
Mm-hmm.
there are people who are coming out to show you some things that make you feel inadequate. I think there's someone who goes around telling women you must squat. If you're not squatting, you are not okay.
Are you for real?
And so it makes
That's where we have reached.
it makes women feel inadequate.
Yeah, that if you're not squatting, you're not probably expressing yourself.
There's something
optimally.
wrong with you.
Yes.
Those are not, scientific. So going to professionals for lessons is important.
Okay. So getting the correct information from the correct sources.
Correct sources.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of sources in the internet which are not correct. We've talked about pornography.
Mm-hmm.
People can watch pornography. Depending on their values, I have no problem.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is important to know that pornography is acting. It's not real life.
Okay. So that cannot be the...
So you cannot measure yourself against a porn star.
Mm-hmm.
And wanting to do things the way a porn star does.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your mate will run away from you. Because that is acting.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to be acting every day?
Okay.
Yeah, it's drama. Sexual drama.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's different from real life. From real life, we're just mortals who have their weaknesses, even sexually.
Mm-hmm.
And who should appreciate that things are never perfect. And you can get help,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if you're watching porn and you think normal men or women have sex for 1 hour continuously, you will die.
Doc, you're breaking a lot of young men and women's heart out there.
Yeah.
But I think to bring it home, does this sexual health situation really affect our identity?
It is the core of our identity. It's the way we dress. It is the way we think. It's the people we want to work with. What determines that? Our sexual identity. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So if people look at me and I'm walking with you holding your hand, they feel, yeah, that's good. It is telling a story. Yeah? But if I'm with another guy, because of that social grouping and placing of people,
stay away,
and they see me holding a man in a certain way, there will be problems. So identity, sexual identity is at the core of everything. And by the way, it determines your success in life.
How so?
Yeah? Sex can kill you.
Okay.
and mismanagement of sex can make you drop out of your profession. Now that we are on this, there are a lot of, I think just today, there is news about a health worker who...
Yeah, I saw that, who raped a client.
Yeah, they are saying a doctor, the person is not a doctor.
I think it's a clinical officer.
Yes, something. Not that clinical officers are not important, they are.
Yes.
But using the right titles is also important. But you can see that may mark the end of that person's career. He may go to jail. So sexuality can finish you or it can build you.
So what we are saying essentially is that sexual identity is important. Sexual health is important.
Paramount.
It's paramount.
It's almost everything. If you mess up your sexual identity and behavior, you are done.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is that as much as we are asking the young generation to check their sources, to feed their curiosity with the right content, I think the same applies to their parents.
Yeah.
And guardians.
It's both ways.
Yeah.
Let's just say older people, younger people, we have a responsibility.
Wow.
Yeah, and the people who will mess the young people is not the young people themselves.
Who messes
Right
them?
now we have a lot of child marriage. Who is marrying young people?
It's the older people.
Yeah.
So I think it's right then to say that even as we continue to discover ourselves, going back to our African values would be critical to us.
There is a lot we can learn.
The positive ones, of course.
Yes, there's so much we can learn that is important. And especially fostering social support around sexuality and sexual health, making it a family affair, even in marriage, to discuss the issues that you have, rather than getting offended and beating each other and killing each other. There is a lot we can learn of how things used to happen. Seeking help where necessary. Those days you'd go to your uncle, your auntie. Now, because they are not there anymore, you go to your sex professional to help you with questions that you can't answer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you very much for helping us unpack a very sensitive, topic, because nobody wants to be either on one side or the other side. But again, I think for us, what we are saying is that it's an important aspect of our identity.
It is very important.
And that we should also put effort in engaging our children, engaging, the younger generation and also the older generation alike, because then it does influence, our holistic health. As much as you've said, we can lose our jobs if we are not careful. We can also, lose our minds.
Yes.
In the same.
It's better to lose a job than your mind.
Than your mind.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So thank you so much. For those of us that are watching us, listening to us, I hope you've been able to get a few nuggets on identity and sexual health. And most importantly, let us just be curious enough to question where we are getting, or the source, the source of our information. I know we are at an age whereby we have a lot of information. It's out there. Access is not the issue. At a flip, we have information about our sexual health. But it's important for us to still question, is this information correct? Is it going to be useful to your sexual health, or is it just going to make you feel good? It's important for us that you're healthy, because your health means you will stick with us on Tangawizi Podcast. We will see you next time, and we will engage in more conversations that will be enriching. That was our time. Thank you so much.